Hey, it's your girl Kat, and I'm back with another video. Today's going to be a nursing topic video. We're going to be talking about the pros and cons between home health nursing and facility nursing. When I say facility nursing, I mean nursing homes or hospitals. So my phone is dying, so I'm not going to try to make this video too long, and we're going to get straight into it. So this is from my experience personally. So for all the nurses out there, or nursing students, or medical professionals, please don't come for me. Like I said, this is from my personal experience because I have worked in nursing homes and I have worked in home health. So we're gonna start with facility nursing. So I have never worked in a hospital. I'm not gonna say that because I want you guys to ask me questions on my social media so I can answer it in a Q&A video. So I'm just going to be talking broadly, so whether it's an LPN or RN. So for facility nursing, I have worked in a nursing home and I feel like the structure is a little bit better. So some pros I would say is like when I did work in a nursing home, I did work 3 to 11 at one point, and then I started working 7P to 7A. So 3 to 11. So when I would come onto shift, I would have my nurse manager there, and then after she would leave, the nurse supervisor would take over. So in the case if I had a situation, you know, with the patient, with the family, complaints, grievances, a code, or if I had a situation where, you know, just something that I couldn't handle by myself, I did have the supervisor on hand who was higher than me, so it could be taken care of like that. And then also another good thing when I used to work in the facility is we had a nurse practitioner on campus. We had a nurse practitioner on campus, so whereas if a patient needed a new order, if we had a patient that needed to be transferred out to the hospital or whatever the case was, we had a nurse practitioner that was on the facility, that was on hand, who would be able to give those orders right then and there, you know, after getting in touch with the doctor and things like that. Because most likely the nurse practitioner will probably reach the doctor faster than you would anyways. But the nurse practitioner can write orders sometimes if the doctor is not available. So that was also a good thing. Whereas in home health, you're solely by yourself. So, you know, if something is to happen to the patient, you know, not to say the family isn't capable, but the family most likely will be looking to you, who's the licensed professional, you know, to jump into action, to start interventions, you know, whatever the case, whatever is happening with the patient, to take care of it. I can't even speak today. It's like I'm trying to rush the video. So yeah, whereas in a nursing home, I don't know too much for hospitals, but I'm gonna speak from my experience. But in a nursing home, if it was like a code, you call, they announce it, within like 5 minutes, 2 supervisors there. Sometimes 1 to 2 nurse practitioners will be there, and also, you know, on the floor, if it was, you know, staff enough, also nurses would be there. So, you know, intervention starting like this, boom, boom, boom. So that was also good, having like a bunch of professionals on hand, you know, being able, you know, if this person could start an IV, or, you know, I could get an order for this right then and there to start IV fluids, transfer the patient, whatever the case was. So that was also nice. Whereas in the home, you got to start, if you have to call 911 if you have to, and then, you know, get in touch with the agency like that. I also have a paper so I can stay on track. And then also another thing I want to talk about is nurse to patient ratio. So I've worked in, I believe, 2 nursing homes, and one was like a rehab where I had like a skill floor. I was on the skill floor, so I would have on a regular day, if we had enough staff, I would have 12 patients. Now you're thinking, you know, 12 patients, you know, that's not a lot. I used to have 30, I used to have 20. I also used to have 20 plus patients at the previous nursing home that I used to work in. So you can already imagine what the workload was with that. And this one, although I did have 12 patients, I was also doing discharges, transfers, and admissions, and also documenting. So this was like a rehab floor, patients who would be here, you know, from days to weeks to months. So, you know, is one nurse, and then imagine if one nurse wasn't there, I would have to split another side. So then I will also have 6 more patients on top of that. So I'll have up to 18. So, you know, the workload was, you know, pretty hefty, on top of documenting, transferring, med pass, and all of that. Whereas in the home health, from my experience, I've only had 1 patient, but there are times that you can get up to 2. But, you know, it's just 1 nurse, 1 patient. So the workload is kind of decreased a little bit because you only have 1 patient to focus on, one person to pass out medication to, interventions, document on, and things as such. And also workload. That's going back to kind of with the patient ratio with the workload. Like I was saying, when I was in a nursing home, I would do admissions, transfers, discharges, deal with physical therapy, deal with social. Whereas in home health, I don't do discharges, I don't do admissions, I don't do all of that. It's usually the case managers and the people who work, you know, in the office and things like that, who coordinate that. So, you know, usually I just focus on you know, hygiene and passing out medication administration, and depending on, you know, whatever the case that's happening with the patient, trach care, G-tube care, things like that. So the workload is kind of decreased. I'm not saying you're gonna have a smooth shift now, because, you know, you never know what type of case you're gonna get. I've had cases where I had, you know, just a G-tube patient pass out medication administration, hygiene practices, you know, calm, cool, and collective. And then I've also had cases where I have to do medication administration, peg tube, I have to do trach care. So, you know, it just depends. However, but I do feel the workload is like significantly decreased from me working in a nursing home. And I find that that's a pro. Another thing I want to talk about is pay. Like I said, this is from my experience. However, and I've also worked in two home health agencies. The first one, the pay compared to the pay that was in a nursing home, and what my level of experience, it wasn't the same. In my opinion, I feel like home health pays a little bit less than nursing homes. But the agency the second agency I did work with, I like how they do it. They have where it's different levels of skills that you have, that the pay is different. For example, if you could do G-tube, it will probably be $19. If you could do intravenous therapy, it'll probably be $22, like that. So it depends on what type of skills you have, and then they go from there. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the nursing work environment. So I've dealt with, because I am kind of young, I have dealt with older nurses trying to, let's say, be messy, and, you know, trying to, you know, get you in trouble, trying to get you, you know, out of character. So I have dealt with that in a nursing home. And, you know, you have to work with different nurses, different days, you know, you guys work different days. So sometimes you're working with like a set of nurses, but different nurses on different days. And sometimes there's nurses that float to your floor. Whereas in home health, and don't get me wrong, you're still communicating with nurses, because, you know, when you get off, someone is relieving you and then you're relieving someone else. But in home health, is like during the shift, you're by yourself, and it's the patient and the family. You know, you're dealing with the family and the patient. So I kind of like that. And I'm not saying I am kind of an introvert, but not too much. You know, in this type of career, this pathway, you can't really be to yourself. You have to communicate, because you're talking with doctors, you're talking with nurse practitioners, you're talking with family, you're talking with the EMTs, you're talking with the ambulance, you're talking with the supervisor, you're talking with the DON, you're talking with other nurses, because you have to, the dietitian, physical therapy, occupational therapy, you have to communicate, you know, because everyone is involved in the plan of care of the patient. But I am one person, I've always been like this during school, whereas if it's a group project, I'd rather work by myself. So that's one thing I kind of like about home health is I am able to work just with me, one-on-one with me, the patient, and I don't have to worry about distractions, people trying to get me in trouble, you know, or anything like that. So that's one thing that I do like. So to basically wrap up this video of the pros and cons, is the structure of the facility is, you know, if anything is going on with the patient or with the family, I do have the supervisor on campus and the nurse practitioner on campus to get orders right away or to get the situation dealt with. Whereas in home health is me and the family. So, you know, I would have to act quick, start interventions, you know, call 911 if I have to, and then get in touch with the agency. So it's like solely me. I have to, you know, be directly there and, you know, have to critically think. That way we can provide the best care for the patient. Another thing is I want to talk about is the patient ratio. When I've worked in a nursing home, I have had 12 plus patients, combining both experiences, whereas in home health, from my experience, I have only had one patient. So, you know, the workload is kind of decreased. You just have one patient to focus on, less chance for medical errors. And, you know, sometimes when you have multiple patients, it's not only about med pass. Sometimes the patients do want to express concerns. They do want to talk. So, you know, that kind of adds, like, you know, to the workload. So the workload is already tied into kind of like the patient ratio. And then the pay, in my opinion, I feel home health does pay less than facility nursing. And then the last thing is the nursing environment. Whereas when you're in a facility, you are working with other nurses. And it, you know, sometimes, most of the time, there are older nurses or more experienced nurses who do tend to try to pick on the new grads or new nurses. And, you know, whereas in home health, you're just working kind of like one-on-one with the patient and the family. So it's like room for less distractions, room for less gossip, room for less messiness. So I hope you guys like this video. If you guys would like to see more in nursing videos, you guys can let me know. I will leave my social media accounts below if you guys have any questions. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you guys won't miss my next video. Bye.